morning. My name is Sarah Vedrani. I'm an independent researcher and historian, as well as a park volunteer. I'm standing outside of Hartwell Tavern, a tavern on the Battle Road, one of many that would have been here in the 18th century. Taverns were really essential businesses in the 18th century. They were places where you could find a meal or a drink or a warm bed for the night, places where you could share news or hear about the events of the day. But there are a lot of misconceptions about taverns and the way they run and the kinds of people who visited them. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today, starting with some of the laws that the colonies had governing taverns. Almost every colony had laws dictating what could go on in a tavern, who could run a tavern, the kinds of things they could sell in a tavern. So starting with the owner of a tavern, there was a license that had to be renewed yearly in almost every colony. And that license said that the owner of the tavern was a respectable person, was someone who paid his taxes, and tavern owners paid some of the highest taxes in their towns or cities, and someone who could maintain an adequate establishment for travelers. And that was really the most important function of a tavern. Almost every tavern had a sign, like this one, that noted it as a public house. So that travelers who were looking for a meal or a drink or a place to stay could easily find the establishment. And when they got in, they had to have adequate accommodations. They had to have clean linens and plenty of food and drink. And if there wasn't any of those things, the tavern owner lost his license. On top of that, taverns had to be respectable businesses. There were people coming in and out every day, men, women, and children. And so what went on in these places had to be a little more genteel than what we expect. There's a general thought that taverns were lawless places where drink flowed freely and morals were checked at the door, and that's just not the case. Most colonies had laws against public drunkenness, and most tavern owners, at their discretion, could kick anybody out who was not following those laws. And it did happen quite a bit in New Hampshire and Massachusetts. Another really big misconception that we hear a lot is that women were not permitted in taverns. And it fits into that idea of a tavern being sort of a Wild West saloon. It was a place where things happened that women shouldn't see or be a part of. And we know that's also not the case. There are many records in Massachusetts and New Hampshire, especially, of women partaking in a lot of the services that taverns provided, whether it was a clothing sale or viewing a scientific experiment being performed, or even partaking in food and drink and tobacco. In New Hampshire, especially, there are a lot of records of women sitting and enjoying a pipe in a local tavern. So a tavern was meant to be a place where anyone could come in and spend 5 minutes, spend a few hours, or spend the night. So hopefully that gives a little bit more info for you about what these buildings would have been like.